I just want to thank each of you for attending. And again, this is going to be recorded like all of our sessions on Zoom and also previously. And it'll be posted. I'll send the link out to everybody, and it'll be posted on the USBE Supporting Students Learning English playlist. So we have a playlist that you can subscribe to, and so then you'll always get notified, about everything that's being posted. So I'm going to leave it to Megan. You all know her, so I'm not going to do any fancy introductions other than we both decided to wear turtlenecks.
Mm-hmm. 'Tis the season because it is cold outside, and yeah, the air is gross. So as much as my skin as I can have covered up, I want to. All right. Well, thank you all for being with us today. And just like Christelle said, yes, many thanks for everything that you are doing in this just ever-changing, chaotic year that we are all experiencing. Just you taking your time to be here in the meeting with us, it means so much. And we just appreciate you being proactive and just your commitment to the students through everything. It's incredible. And I can say for myself, I just can't imagine the day-to-day that our LEAs are going through. And so my hat's off to you. Thank you. Wholeheartedly, thank you. So today, I asked Christelle to get us all together today so we can talk about some important Wida updates since things are, of course, constantly changing. So let's go ahead and get into it. And I always invite you to please type into the chat any questions that you have. One thing that we want to make sure you do is make sure that it is to everyone so everyone can see your questions. And I believe that it's automatically defaulted to Jerry. If you do have any technical issues throughout this, you can privately message Jerry for technical assistance, but otherwise questions related to the Wida assessment, please post those to everyone. And then I also would invite you to come off of mute if you're brave enough and ask away questions. As many of you know, during my presentations, I am quite all right with people popping in and out. So no problem if you just want to speak up. So here we go. All right, so just a couple of reminders first before we get into some of the big changes. There are a couple of, and I just realized that one of those has already passed. A couple of upcoming webinars. Do know for that webinar that just passed, you can always access recordings of webinars through the Wida Secure portal. So do know that we have the technology troubleshooting one coming up in January once we get back from the winter break. So we did just recently have some trainings, the last of which also wrapped up just this morning. Many of you had signed up, and due to just everything happening in our schools and in the LEAs could not make it, but please do not fear. Those trainings were also recorded, and those will also be posted to the Wida Secure portal. The way to access all of these webinars that I'm mentioning is just go to the download library and then go into the state and district webinars. Do note, though, that it normally takes about a week to get webinars posted in there. So you'll probably need to go back and check next Thursday. And if you need information before then, please reach out to me in the meantime. Or I would say reach out to Wida customer service in DRC as well, because they have fantastic customer service. One thing that is still going on for trainings are in professional development is the Wida self-paced e-workshops that are available the entire year through the end of August. So another thing to note is if you are in a position where you are the person who has to do the training for your LEA, train the trainers, or I guess train the administrators, excuse me, Wida has posted new training materials on the website. So if you click on that link, and this PowerPoint will be shared with all of you as well. If you click on that link, it'll take you right to that resource. So if you need to do some further trainings within your LEA, this is another additional resource. And again, back to that Wida e-learning, these are all the 8 different e-learning courses, as a reminder, that are available. Please let educators know this is a free opportunity for all educators. And if you need any help with how to set up, do a massive upload of educators to create accounts, please let me know and I can give you that information. And Brenda, I see in the chat, that is a fantastic suggestion. And as soon as I am done presenting, I will absolutely share that link in the chat. All right. Okay, so why we're all here together. The big changes, what's happening with Wida Access. So these that you see on the screen are the original dates for our access test. And as you have probably already started hearing, because the change just barely happened a couple days ago, we took a look at this information and we gathered further information from LEAs through the assessment directors, had some meetings within USBE, and this led to a lot of interesting discussion about these dates and is this all going to be, is this the best course of action for this year? And so ultimately, what you guys know now has changed based on all the feedback we got, knowing that we already have one of the longest test windows for Wida Access across the country. And that also, though, that this is a test that cannot be administered remotely. And that is for test validation and security purposes. That was a decision made by Wida, not the state. But given the unique nature of this test, we fully understand why this decision was made to not allow remote administration. But knowing those two things, and then we asked these poll questions to LEAs, and based on the feedback we got, ultimately we decided we need to extend the window. So you originally had 8 weeks to test, and we have decided to extend that by another 2 weeks. And the reason for that is if your LEA finds yourself in a position where you may have to go into a soft closure for 2 weeks, this will give you the opportunity to still have that full testing period allowed to you, the full 8 weeks, and that you will not have to say, okay, now I only have 6 weeks to try to get this done. So as you can see now, the new dates have been posted on the Wida state page. We are still working on getting everything updated on our own USBE state page, but because of this, some of the dates are still to be determined. So the only ones that we definitely have right now are the ones that you can see on the screen. So you can see that we have now extended the additional test material ordering window. The deadline for shipping materials back is incorrect. I have a fat finger miss there that I need to fix. So please, everybody, take huge note that that is supposed to be the 26th and not the 6th. I'm going to fix that as soon as possible. So again, huge note, your deadline for materials is the 26th, okay? And our reporting, our data validation done by you, the LEAs, again, that has all been pushed out by 2 weeks as well. We should see reports online and data online at the end of May, but everything else after that point is still to be determined. So again, based on all the feedback we received, we are extending the window. Knowing that we are extending the window, a couple of things that we'd like for you to keep top of mind. when you are planning your assessment schedule, we really, really want to encourage that you start testing as soon as you can, just in case. So hopefully you're not going to say, oh, well, I have 2 more weeks, so we're going to put it off a little. We want these 2 extra weeks to be, to give you that buffer just in case. So again, please know that we strongly encourage testing to start as soon as possible. And again, I apologize for that typo. Test materials are the 26th. I'm going to pause there just in case. And Brenda, I see that you have a chat that's to me privately. Is this something that you would like to discuss offline, or is this something that you would like to bring up with the whole group? I just want to honor whether or not it was supposed to be a private chat or not.
Well, our situation might be entirely different than the other schools. So, but that's something that we need to address because we have, in our school district, we have students that are home-based due to the Navajo Nation shelter-in-place order. And so the teachers are also teaching from home too. So our biggest challenge is going to be how will we test these students if everybody's home-based?
Right, thank you. So for those of you, and Brenda, I appreciate you sharing that because it was private to me. So her question was, when students are not coming into the schools, what are we expected to do? And this is actually a common question I've already been getting, especially from virtual online schools. Students that are, and I'm seeing more in the chat, 1/3 of our students are online. So this is the moment, Christelle, when you're like, oh, we love hearing from Megan. These are not the moments that we're gonna love to hear from me. So right now, the federal government, the U.S. Department of Education has said that we have to give the annual ELP assessment. That is not an option to opt out of. So our state, as all states in the country, are required to still give this federal assessment.
Okay,
that
so
being said,
one thing, that's the previous administration. We're not really sure what's going to happen.
Yeah.
After January. So
lots of things could change. So
yeah, I think you should be careful.
Absolutely. Like Christelle said, could there be changes? Yes. And I think we're all getting used to like what is, right, what's happening right now. And so this is the feedback I can give right now. And we'll see if things change, right? Come mid-January. But right now, as it is, this is federally mandated. That being said, the guidance that they provide along with this requirement is LEAs need to do the best they possibly can to test students. And they said, quote, to the greatest extent possible. So there's a lot of gray in what that greatest extent possible is, right? So I think the most you do to attempt to test these kids, that, and just keep good record of those attempts, document everything. I think that's going to be your best option right now. But please do note also that the state are pursuing amendments or waivers, anything we can to say, what is this going to actually look like as far as accountability goes on you all, knowing that there are all these challenges and you're going to try to get these kiddos tested the best you can. We recognize that it's a big ask. And so we are pursuing waivers. I will say, and this is me speaking personally, not for USBE, I am really advocating myself to try to do everything we can to get these students tested. And the reason why is because this is the one assessment we have where we have data from last year. And we were able to complete last year's Wida access testing, and we will actually be able to see the true impact of the pandemic versus all of our other state assessments that we're going to have to try to figure out this and calculate this skip year data, which is going to prove really hard. And so the data geek in me loves that this data can actually truly show us real data when it comes to the true impact of the pandemic, and to help inform us about where our educators are at and where our students are at, and the ramifications of what this past year has really truly looked like. I think I think that I am crossing my fingers, and I'm hopeful that as we see changes in the new year, that waivers will hopefully be granted to states. So I feel good about saying that, doing everything you can, knowing that once a lot of these maybe not changes from the federal government come into place, we'll still well be into our testing window. So
Megan?
Yes.
Hi, sorry, this is Katina. My camera's not working, so I apologize for being dark there. But I just want to keep something in perspective, that there's a lot happening and things are happening very quickly. So at this point, even though this has been extended out to March, it's still out to March. So much can happen between now and then that allows us to have students back in the building, even if it's on a part-time basis, which is kind of what we've been doing here at Guadalupe. We've been having an A and B track, and so it's been really difficult educationally. Our students are not making the progress that they've been making just because they're just not in the building for 3 out of 5 days. But I think that the change and hopefully getting this virus, this vaccine going, I'm really being positive about what's possible for our scheduled testing dates, which are in February, the beginning of February. So maybe things will be better in 6 weeks and 8 weeks, and we'll be able to do what we need to do to understand where our students are and really get some good data and be able to have a better picture of the impact.
Yeah, Tina, if I could reach into my computer and hug you right now, I would. I love what you said, and I wholeheartedly agree with everything you said. The end of March, mid-March is, a lot can change and happen. And I mean, the reality is I'm sure I'm going to be asking Christelle in a couple of weeks to schedule another meeting so I can give you more updates, and it's going to forever be changing. And although Christelle is so sweet and she's like, we love hearing from Megan, I promise you're probably going to be like, no more Megan. What else is she going to drop on us? But a couple of things, though, that I've heard as we've tried to kind of assist some schools in this situation where it's, hey, we're fully remote. What do we do? And in this one, I want to say with major caution, I have heard some schools saying, we're going to go into homes and we're going to get testing done, kind of like what we had to do in the past with home and hospital kiddos, right? And I would just say, please discuss, if you're going to make a decision like that, please discuss that thoroughly with your LEA, because we do not want a situation where any of your staff is putting their health at risk, okay? Or they're putting themselves in a situation that they are uncomfortable with. So if you do decide to pursue that, please make sure you take a really good close look at it. But other options that we have seen is LEAs setting up just separate testing sites, sending out Qualtrics emails where with smart schedulers where parents can sign up for a time to come in and have their students tested. If that is not an option, parents may not have that technology ability. They are, some districts are just calling home and saying, hey, we want to get this on the calendar and schedule this with you. And they're just setting up separate just testing sites. Some LEAs that are in a situation where, hey, our kiddos are spread all over the place. We can't have them come to a central testing site. I think I've heard of partnerships with local libraries, even partnerships where they've reached out with other LEAs in the area to maybe help and say, hey, let's try to get this done together. I've seen some beautiful partnerships coming together in that case. There's a lot of problem solving. And if you find yourself in a situation where you're like, we're trying everything we possibly can, please reach out to myself and Michelle, Neil, anyone else on the assessment team, and we're going to try to do our best to assist you with problem solving this and how can we get this done. And really, truly, I see a question. If we tell someone to come in and test and they say no, what do? You can't do anything, even though, and this is kind of this weird gray area. Wida is not on the opt-out form. It's not a test we can opt out of because it's a student's civil right? We can't opt out of a civil right, but ultimately, those parents' rights opt out, just supersede everything, right? If a family and parents say no, absolutely no, and we understand what we are saying, and we understand, no, they're not taking this test, then they don't take the test. And all you do is you just go into Wida AMS and you just mark do not score, refuse to test. And it's okay. It'll show that is our documentation of we tried. They refused to test. And also, though, there might be situations, I hope this isn't a case, but where a student is physically incapable of it. Maybe they have COVID and they are hospitalized. I hope that is not happening to students, but the reality is it possibly is. Do not score absent, right? The student was absent and could not take the test. So
there are other questions in there that are relevant. But I want to actually go back to Karen Sterling's question.
Okay.
So, and because the rest of them are about percentages of students tested, refusal, all of these kinds of things, which I have some comments about. But Karen Sterling, could you just verbally say your question?
Sure, sorry. Yes, my question was really about, I support testing because it informs instruction and it will really help us know where kids are and where we need to really focus our efforts in the summer and next fall. But what I hope and what I'm wondering is, do you think the accountability piece of this assessment will be alleviated from this year? Because if the accountability piece is removed, it takes away all the pressure for percentage of people testing, and also it would make us skip a year because we wouldn't be able to do growth if we don't really count it. But in fairness, I'm not sure that we could count this test as being reliable and valid given the many, many challenges over this last year with COVID.
Yeah, so I'm going to add something to that. One of the biggest issues is related to the way in which the EL indicator is organized for identifying student groups for TSI, as well as the lowest performing group of students for school improvement, and all of, those things are really critical. And I think that's the point in relationship to using assessment to adjust your instruction related to other ways other data points that you can use to support how you identify the gaps in this year, right? So I think those are the things that are critical, and I hope they're ongoing conversations. There was, I think, a survey that was sent out about TSI and waiver, and I hope all of you got that. That was from, I think, I'm not sure if it was from the assessment department or from Leah Voorhees or like whoever it was, but that's the other issue. The other issue is when parents say no about testing. My experience is they really, the point of saying no is, well, I'm going to go around it kind of backwards. I've seen LEAs do amazing work that personalizes their interaction with parents who are afraid if they have their students tested, especially if they're not documented, that they will be highlighted by other agencies and discriminated against, as well as isolated from regular instruction, which actually is an incredibly valid point because oftentimes that does happen. And a civil rights issue is you cannot separate English learners in having access to grade level content in regular education classes. So all this pull-out stuff that's going on, or sit a kid in front of a computer, that just opens us up to huge civil rights litigation because we can't do that. That's undue separation and segregation. So these issues are really complex, and we have to be wise and strategic, and also be strong advocates for our parents. Somehow parents who speak English have tons of advantages because parent choice for them, is a priority. But, parents whose language is other than English, they really don't get the benefit of the doubt, either communication in their own language that's meaningful or oral translation services that help them understand how they can advocate for their students. So, we have to actually be really smart. If we're advocates for each child and their needs, their learning needs, then we have to think of them in relationship to their families, right? This is not, this is an individual child and, those parents. All that kind of language has to be stricken from our vocabulary. So I'm just being really strong about this because violation of student civil rights to ensure equitable access to educational opportunities is what we don't do in Utah and probably many other places, in the United States. But we have to step up our game in relationship to really better understanding the communities, the families, right? And what they're suffering. It's not just about us as educators or what makes us feel comfortable. So I'm going to end this, but I think it's really critical. And someone just wrote, most parents will opt out based on safety or never respond. Well, so let me say that oftentimes when parents don't respond and they're working 3 or 4 jobs and, everybody in their family is infected with COVID and they can't even get tested, and the languages and all the communication goes to them in English, when their language is Somali, that's on us. It's not on the family. So we have to actually stop blaming parents. I'm just saying. And because of COVID, that should even make us more sensitive.
Right.
Okay, so that's it for me.
Christelle, I love to hear it. You know it. I love to hear it. And Christelle is absolutely right about the, what she said about parents. And one piece, because parents' refusal to have their students be tested is not just unique to this COVID year. It's been an issue for quite some time. And my response is normally, we need to be sensitive to this air of fear that a lot of parents live in for so many reasons. And having conversations with those parents is just crucial in building that relationship. and letting them know that this is actually a civil right of your child, and this is your check and balance against us, right? And this is a tool that you have to check up on me to make sure I'm doing what I need to do for your student. And most of the time, when parents really truly start to understand and grasp that, they're like, oh, okay, yeah. But they've heard these horror stories of, ICE was, standing outside of this school, picking up all the parents when they dropped their kids off for testing. And unfortunately, that did happen in another state. And we are dealing with the repercussions of that, but letting them know that none of this information is ever shared, and that is a violation of the law. We can't use that to determine citizenship or anything, and really letting them know that, just the misunderstandings, the common misconceptions surrounding testing, we need to just really start to tackle. So I know that I'm going to get on my soapbox and keep going. So I'm going to push myself forward to address some of the comments in the chat. But Karen, I'm crossing my fingers that we are successful in receiving waivers for accountability this year. That is the hope. That is the plan of where we go. What happens? I cannot say what's going to happen because we have so many pieces moving on a federal level right now with changes at the top levels of government. So that piece we're going to wait on. As soon as we know that information, we will let you all know. It'll be messaged out. And do know, though, that information on accountability will most likely go out to assessment directors first and foremost. So I would say just make sure you and your assessment director, for some of you, you're like, that is me also. Just make sure you're having really good, close communication with what's going on. So, and I do my best to make sure that everything communicated to assessment directors gets communicated to you as well. So, so there is not just this gap of this is what I heard, this is what they heard. But do make sure that you are talking and working in tandem together, because I think that could help alleviate this once, cross our fingers, the waiver comes. And yes, Karen, I do think giving testing under different, there's so much psychometric implications behind giving a student a test in a slightly different way. Is that data valid? I think any testing situation is always going to be slightly altered no matter what every year, teacher to teacher, because teachers are different, So I think there's always going to be that that standard measure of error that we're going to have to consider. But I think with the Wida access test, we are very fortunate in that we actually have last year's data. So it's probably going to be, out of all the data that we get on students, probably the closest to reliable and valid. And that would be, that's my opinion though. I'm sure a psychometrician would take me to task on all of this, but I do appreciate what you've pointed out, Karen, and please let me know offline if you ever want to get into it, because I love the data talk. So yeah, thumbs up. I love it. Okay, other things. Casey, hopefully I addressed your question, and Betty had a second to that in will that count against our percentage of students tested, or does the refusal not count? So if we have a refuse to test, unfortunately, it does count. The student is still counted as EL, and it does count against you. So that's why those conversations with the parents become even more crucial in those situations, because we want to do everything we can to, because I don't like, just as much as you don't like, the fact that it counts against you when a parent makes that decision, right? Because that's not a decision you made, and you are probably doing everything in your power to make sure that that kiddo is getting what they need. But yes, unfortunately, it does still count. So please let me know if you need any talking points or anything like that when it comes to discussions with parents. And I'm sure Christelle would be happy to. I'm volunteering you, Christelle. I'm sure she would be happy to assist in those conversations as well. Because boy, I tell you what, Christelle, you can preach it better than anyone. All right. So other questions I'm seeing in the chat. I've had issues with screening online students where the parents just have not responded at all. Again, Rachel and anyone else in that situation, document. As soon as you are in a situation where that student is in the building attending school again, even if it's next year, get that kiddo screened as soon as possible. And remember that that remote screener right now, it is provisional. So the federal government is accepting it for this year until things go back to whatever normal is going to be. But, you know, just as soon as those kiddos are back in the building, then just give the regular screener and document, hey, we've contacted this many times. We cannot get this even done virtually or remotely for screening. So Rachel, hopefully I've answered that. Yep. Okay. Sorry. As I scroll through really quick, Katina, I love suggestions, and you all, I'm sorry, Katina, you're gonna be like, Megan, no, but I am always like, talk to Katina because she's a wealth of information and she always has so many great ideas that I'm, you know, when LEAs reach out to me, I'm like, well, let's actually talk to Guadalupe and Katina because
No!
I don't get with this anymore.
No.
All right. Let's see. Okay. I'm seeing a lot of. Okay. I think I'm good. Y'all just stop me when I need to be stopped and back me up when I need to. But I'll flip to our next slide. So we have these dates. As the other dates start flowing in and we can confirm things, we will message that out to you. But again, we have our new dates now. Hopefully that provides some relief. The one thing I'm going to say about dates is if things go crazy again and we need to extend the window again, we do have that option and we will exercise that option if we need to. So please know that. Okay, there's always other options, so not to panic quite yet. I'm not going to read this very wordy slide. It gives me a headache to look at, but just so you know, Wida has provided some fantastic COVID recommendations for testing, and they are now available. We've been sending it out quite a bit. It's available in the secure portal. It's coming with all of your materials as well. The one thing I do want to say about these COVID recommendations coming from Wida, while they are fantastic and they are great, and some of the ideas I think are just awesome, please know that these do not these do not replace CDC guidance, local health guidance, your health plans at your LEAs. Those take precedence. These are recommendations. If these recommendations work for your LEA, please use them. Otherwise, always go to what the guidance that your LEA is following. Go to that first and foremost. So I want to say that. But a couple of highlights from some of their recommendations that I have just loved. So that their big three areas are sanitize, set up, and stay safe, right? So let's plan, be safe, and sanitize everything. I've just loved how they've said, hey, sheet protectors, laminate things, put things in little plastic baggies, make things easy to wipe off. Even saying, hey, in a physically distanced situation, I mean, and hopefully you have dock cameras, because I'm sure not many of us have old school projectors anymore, but if you can, hey, project things up on the board so students can see it that way. If you can't be just one-on-one, especially for those kinder tests, right? So I really love the recommendations, because there's some things that I was like, I didn't even think about that, projecting the test. If I'm in a secure environment, I can do that. It's fine, right? And then the other thing, though, that we also just need to know is that the nature of the access test, like, you have to physically distance because of the speaking component. You cannot have students right next to each other. There has to be space. So, and even before COVID, it was set up dividers to mitigate sound. So again, if you have any questions about those recommendations, please talk to your local officials first and foremost, to confirm that everything you are doing is correct for testing in a pandemic, but also reach out to us as well. And we can help guide you in that direction of, hey, these are who the people you need to be talking to, and possibly the other resources you may need. So know that those COVID recommendations are there, and they are coming with your materials. If you haven't already gotten into Wida, the Wida Secure Portal, and seen them. So, and if you need them, just send me an email and I'll be happy to send them on the way. And then just a couple of reminders, okay? AMS, so that's your assessment management system, okay? Please do know that we only upload students into the system one time. So, and that one-time upload was from that mid-November date that we messaged out. Any changes that have taken place for enrollment since that date, you're going to have to make those changes in AMS manually. But one thing to know is that you cannot delete any students from the system. So if a student is there that is no longer at your LEA, do not panic. Don't do anything with them. Just ignore them, pretend they are not there. Do not score, don't do anything like that. Just pretend they don't exist, and they will be taken off and they will not count against you once the state does our data validation after the fact. So if they are on there, don't panic at all. You can add students. So when you get new students coming in from other LEAs, whether it's within state or out of state, you can add those manually. Please just know that the system, the Wida AMS system, uses 3 preceding zeros before their SSID. So you're going to put 000 and then that state number when you add students. If you don't remember to, don't panic. We can still catch it in data validation for you, okay? And you can catch it later as well in data validation. Another reminder is with our kindergarten test, we see this mistake probably the most is with bubbling. I know it sounds funny because we always have to teach our kiddos how to bubble in the circles, but the most frequent mistake we actually see with our kinder test is that that test administrators are putting check marks in the circle or just lines through the circle, and that will not count. And to have that test transcribed and then rescored costs $250 a pop. So don't make that costly mistake, please. I don't want that to happen to your LEA. So bubble, bubble, bubble. And then other reminders is there are holiday winter hours that Wida and DRC observe. I've posted those on the screen for you as well. So know that they're a little shorter during this time of year. I think that is it. So let's get more questions coming in.
Yeah, you have a couple of questions. Do you want to look at them, Megan? What about the speaking portion of Wida?
That is a great question, actually. So yes, they've been running simulations, and the system picks up the tiniest of whispers. So they have found that when students are wearing masks and still speaking into the microphones, the system still picks it up just fine. They haven't seen any issues with masks for the microphone speaking portions of the test. I would say when it comes to the kindergarten portion, and I say, yep, I'm seeing others say we screened with masks on and it was fine. Awesome. With the kindergarten portion, if there are moments where you really need to see their mouth, that's when that physically distancing and hopefully having those plexiglass guards that we've seen put up in quite a few places where that's going to be necessary. So if you do need to see the mouth for speaking with the kindergarten testing, then that would be a consideration. But again, please follow guidance first and foremost and make sure that that is the best and safest situation. So let's see. So should we have online students scheduled to come in after school or on Fridays that we have half days or during school? That is totally up to your LEA. That's an LEA choice of how you guys want to get that done. I personally speaking, I'm not a huge fan of having to do things after school. That's going to create more hours for educators or test administrators. But if that's something that's already built into your budget and your scheduling and everything, and that's a consideration you would like to explore, then go for it. I think for me, Fridays would be the best option for those kiddos. But that is completely a local decision. So I'm sorry, I can't give much more feedback than that. During screening this year, we had a lot more technical problems with Chromebooks. This is a great question. Yes, any technical updates are posted in Wida AMS. Work with your IT people really closely, and if they don't know where to get that documentation of all the different platform requirements for actually testing, let me know, and I can walk them through the AMS system so they can find all of those technical requirements and how to actually troubleshoot their system from the AMS portal side. And we use a wipe to clean the mic and it feels like we are staying safe. I love that. It kind of rhymes. We use a wipe to clean the mic. So yeah, distance learners come in on Fridays. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of that. Distance learners coming in Friday. So we don't need the full 2 hours this was scheduled for. But I'm going to open it up to any other questions. Otherwise, Christelle, what would you like to add to this conversation before I start to say, okay, go on your merry way and enjoy your Thursday?
Yeah, so I'm not going to add anything other than, a hearty thank you to Megan and the assessment department. They always think about the ALS directors and support people for multilingual learners. So this piece is always really important, just in case there are gaps between your local assessment director and yourself for whatever reason, which there shouldn't be a reason, but perhaps there is. So that's the only thing I have to say. The other thing, as most of you know, based on the 2020 WIDA and the criteria for USBE recognizing exemplary elementary schools, in January it'll be high schools, and then in February it'll be middle schools. That's always challenging, and the reason it's challenging is the criteria we use is trying to alleviate people's assumptions about poor children or children who are multilingual learners. See, if you have a school that is like 300 kids with no poverty, and 10 English learners, then pretty much the expectation is, that everybody's soaring. But oftentimes there are schools with high poverty, high numbers of English learners, and the work that they're doing, is the most extraordinary work that I've seen in the country being done in Utah. So I think that's the piece that's really valuable, is creating a network of principals and teachers learning with each other related to what's happening for our students in our own schools, right? So that every child has the kind of opportunity that the wealthiest child has. So look forward to the high school list, which I think you'll be quite surprised at, and then the middle school list as well of recognitions. And we want to do recognitions because, as you know, this is a really challenging year for so many reasons. And there's generous, open-hearted, brilliant work being done by educators and principals and district people. And, we should be thanking them and recognizing them and learning with them. So that's all I want to say, Megan.
Okay. And I just remembered I needed to put that link in the chat for those training tools. So there it is right there, that link. So I had to stop sharing. But Christelle, one great thing that I love about this group of people is that they collaborate so much. And that's what I want to leave this meeting on, is that note of, we know that you all collaborate a ton and discuss things. And so as you're troubleshooting, hey, how are we going to get these kiddos tested that are just online and virtual? I have already been saying, hey, team up with this person. They've had some great ideas. I would just really encourage that you all keep talking. You're welcome to go through me, and I can help set up some of that communication and share what I've heard that other districts are doing. But I know that you all have some good communication going on, and I would almost encourage, say, hey, start an email chain or chat of, hey, this is what's working. This is how we're going to tackle getting these kiddos tested. Unfortunately, the state cannot tell you how to do that since it's a local control issue. But I am happy to share what I've heard. And the more that you guys can share, the better off I think we could all be. So huge thank you for everything you are doing, and always welcoming assessment into your arms for this topic. I always feel like, assessment, here comes the test lady, but you guys never make me feel that way. And I really love working with this group, and please know that I am just an email or a phone call away, as is Ann Michelle, my partner in crime. I like to call her my Wida wife, and Christelle, our amazing Title III director. So just let us know what we can do for you all. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Megan, and thanks everybody for joining us. And if people from Granite want to stay on just for a minute so I can chat with them. And Lindsay from Monticello is saying, I think it's important to see how this time has affected our ELs and who was able to still work with, reach those students and families to continue their growth so that we can learn from them. Thank you for being advocates for our students. And again, it's always about learning with each other and from each other and holding each other up. So if the Granite people could just stay on for a minute, that would be great. Everybody else, my deepest appreciation, how much I value and love each of you. So thank you and have a good day.
Awesome. I love all the waves. And Jerry, I think are we good to stop recording now, Christelle?
Yes, you can stop recording and I'll just chat with the Granite people.
Okay. And do you need me to stay on or are you good?
No, I'm fine. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.